scoots to the back. The ball's following Bergman, or Bergman's following him. One of the two. He gave it to Pickett. Worst possible guy to give it to. Outside of the boot was bizarre and beautiful. How's the wow factor of that?
Straight in the arms of Pickett. That's not a good decision. Pickett on the outside of the boot. He's kicked the goal. How did that happen?
You are kidding me.
Defied physics, changed direction, went inside out through the goals.
It almost went around him.
Here's Bergman. Kicking straight to Pickett. Going right there. Oh, what a goal by Pickett.
Wow. He's not even celebrating.
Have a look at him.
Is able to steady and straighten. He's coughed it straight up the Pickett. He takes on Farrell outside of the right bird. He sights it and sends it sublime from the $12 million man. Give him longer, give him more.
Did he mean that?
Who cares?
It was big on the wow factor, all right. What a way to mark the long-term contract, 9 years for Cozzy Pickett, and it has our coaches' attentions. John Longmire, welcome.
Good to be with you guys.
Adam Simpson, hello.
Hey, boys.
All right, so it's a changing landscape. I feel like there are two little asterisks to put on this. John Longmire has enlisted his sons to help him out with this.
Well, I
NBA
don't notice this. He's
like
been
that.
outsourcing some of his workload, which says to me that he's underestimated the role of the media, I think.
And our historical footnote is this is the man who gave Lance Franklin his $10 million nine-year contract.
Exactly.
So you might be the source of the whole thing. John Longmire, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Jared, and thanks, Gaz. That's right. I mean, Alistair Lynch, I guess, was the first big long-term contract, wasn't it, back in the day? It was a 10-year contract, was seen as extraordinary. I think by the end of that contract, many, including probably Alistair, thought it was cheap. He thought he was playing for too little back then. But we obviously were a part of that with the Lance Franklin deal, the 9-year, $10 million contract. There is an element at play here that's been around for a long time, including many sports. History is riddled with the long-term contracts. If you look at the NBA, for instance, that's a contract that goes for an extremely long time. Back in the day, they made changes to that. There's no question that the players themselves would not want any changes to it, but it's certainly very topical at the moment as far as the two sides of the story. The players wanting the long-term contracts, and the clubs and the responsibility when you've got things like concussion issues coming to the fore as well.
So the Flashpoint NBA contract was Magic Johnson, and this did force action because it just was too absurd.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this and you look at the extremities of this, this is a 25-year contract that Magic Johnson signed back in 1981. So we're talking about the length of the deals now. If you look at that 25-year contract, and I think it only took about 10 years later that Magic thought that he was actually getting underpaid. But that went through a phase in the NBA that they were looking at the contracts and the extension of contracts and what that meant for the game. And I think there was certainly a change that the NBA brought in regards to 5-year maximum term contracts. And I did do a bit of research with the help of my son. My son's sort of right into the NBA. They're talking about there's different versions of max contracts, 5-year contracts. There's a supermax contract. There's bits and pieces around that and the eligibility for what a supermax contract looks like. But if you look at the AFL at the moment, the responsibility is with the clubs. The biggest change in the game from a player movement sense has been free agency. And what that's brought in has been the tension in the marketplace as far as from the player managers in regards to getting to that tipping point and using free agency as a pretty powerful leverage tool. So quite often we're seeing some criticism of clubs of signing long-term contracts. The problem being the clubs, if they want to keep that player, don't really have a choice because someone will offer a long-term contract. And with no restrictions on the length of those deals, it's just a matter of who and how long and how much money.
Do you think the AFL should contemplate the maximum limit on the max or the supermax contract comparison?
Well, I've heard from that the AFL are looking at things like that at the moment, and I'm not sure whether I'm certainly pretty sure that the Players Association and the players won't be agreeable to it. But when you've got concussion issues and you're talking about some of these challenges, the game's now changing and things are being brought up to discuss in the game as far as these long-term contracts and value of those contracts. I think it'll be on the AFL's agenda to look at the term of these long-term contracts and maybe the possibility in the future of capping them.
So, Simo, there's a few arms that aren't used in our AFL system that are commonplace around the world, and one of those is trading without consent. Is yes, you can sign your 9-year deal, but there's still the possibility that during the course of that you'll be traded. Is there a natural maturing to be done on this front?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure of the answer, but I'm pretty sure. Did I hear Horse's son did the research? Is his son named ChatGPT? That sort of same stuff. Anyway, my thoughts on things at the moment is if Cosy Pickett signs a 9-10-year deal, whatever it is, and that's his deal now he lives with, and he'll get traded down the track. Things will happen. The contract will get traded as they move. So I'm not as concerned at the moment about these situations, albeit now the concussion issue is big. That's real. So, and I'm pretty sure the Players Association won't be allowing clubs to put clauses in. You can sign this long-term deal but if you get concussion, this and this happens. So there's a debate coming, but I'm not as concerned about the length of contract. I think they just carry the contract with them for their career, and they could move 2 or 3 clubs as they see fit. There'll be a club that gets into trouble. There'll be a club that makes the wrong move and has a poor decision. But at the moment, if you don't do it, you're going to lose your players.
Where will they end up, these contracts, boys? It's mind-boggling at the moment when we hear some of these figures bandied around, but the salary cap's only going one way. Harley Reid's a young player who's getting astronomical numbers bandied around about him. Where do you think it's going to get to?
I think it'll be. I don't think it's too far of a stretch to be talking about $2 million contracts a year for 10 years. I don't think that's far off in the horizon. At the moment, the only real safeguarding place, I guess, has been, or the requirement from the AFL has been for the directors to agree to these contracts at club level. So all the responsibilities on the club. And as Simo rightly pointed out, you do have a choice. You don't have to sign them to long-term contracts. However, more than likely you'll lose your player, and so that's the difficulty in these situations. Some club out there will be prepared to put to your player an expensive long-term deal.
The $20 million 10-year contract will make headlines, won't it?
Well, there'll be a couple of players sitting at home thinking life's pretty good right now.
Yeah. Go on, Simo.
Just the interesting thing is that it's never been a massive issue that the soft cap or the salary cap. It's never been for most clubs. Every now and then a club will get into trouble, but money's not often been the issue. You can move money around. You can trade players in and out to free up money. You can extend contracts. You can backhand. You can front end. There's so many ways you can leverage getting a player in. So it's never been front of mind in my situations anyway that it's too tight. If you really want to play and you want to pay for him, you can actually make it happen, but you just got to compromise in other areas.
John, as Tom Harley's heading for the AFL at the end of the season, what might he bring to headquarters in your experience?
I've been working with Tom and Jared since 2014. I've been really fortunate to have a two-time Premiership captain with great business pedigree as well walking the door. So he gives us, or has given us over a long time, certainly as a football manager, a great understanding of the game. He was a fantastic balancing act in regards to the whole football department back then, and since he's moved into the CEO, he's still maintained that role. It's very rare, I guess. I used to open the door to Tom and or open the door to all the meetings to Tom. He was available for any meeting. He used to come into most of our meetings. He used to be able to do that to provide 2 things. One is to know what's going on, which I always thought was valuable as a CEO doing that. But more importantly, had many things to contribute. And That's why he's so valuable. His intricate knowledge of the game, the players, but also the business side of the game. It's an outstanding appointment by the AFL. Unfortunately, we're losing him, but from the game's point of view, they couldn't have got anyone better.
All right, so tonight's Make Us Smarter. Simo, where are you taking us?
Yeah, I'm sure I'm really comfortable with this Make Us Smarter. Down the track might make us the opposite, but we'll keep with it. The horse and I spoke a little bit, and this is where we're not different. We just come from different angles with this notion around the contest, and we keep hearing the contest is so important to win the contested possession, and just thought we'd show you a couple of examples of why. And this notion of inside to out, like what does it actually mean? And we were pretty simple in my time about just holding outside balance, and it wasn't much deeper than that. We would do drills that would train that. Horse, I'll get you to touch on this in a second about what it meant for you guys when you got that group of 10 to 15 players and it's turnover to turnover, but it's with a 20-metre radius where holding balance is important, when to go in, when not to, because once it gets out, you're in a lot of trouble if you haven't defended well around that place. So you guys did something a little bit different.
Yeah, and I guess over the last 5 years, we had roles for the attacking players and defensive players, and so many clubs do this. It's not an unusual tactic that clubs train. We used to have A1, A2, A3 with the attacking side of it, and D1, D2, D3. And so as you're going towards a contest in a scramble situation, and it's a lot more structured, I guess, than what you think it is if you're sitting at home on the couch watching the television. There was a bit of work that the players had to do and a few decisions they had to make as they're entering that contest, not just looking at where the ball is, but looking at the balance around that, who was a receiver, what players they had to sign off on. And that was an important part of it. I know Collingwood do it a little bit differently. They get all in. All of the players attack the contest, and they force real panic on the ball carrier. But Simo, you've got some examples of it.
Yeah, we'll roll the tape. Now, this is Carlton on the weekend. Their first quarter, they were exceptional around the contest. So they were plus 20 at contested possessions in the first quarter and a half, I think. So real issues for West Coast. And what happens is when you're behind around the contest, you tend to collapse in on the ball. So you see Liam Duggan here. He feels compelled to get into there to help. His direct opponent holds his balance, and this is what we used to train a lot, to the point where it spits out, and then you're in a lot of trouble. You get a player who gets pretty free, and you get that availability. This one's a bit longer. It's sort of a scramble clip. There's a scramble there. Then you see Harley Reid, who's just attacked a bit harder than Cripps, and that's great. But there's no contest there. It's a mark to Carlton. They peel different ways. So now Graham has to press his situation, and now, if we pause it now, it becomes a live play. So this bit here, the guys on the outside, their role is just as important as the guys on the inside. You'll see Graham's man is Motlop in the bottom left-hand corner there. So he's left his man to help this contest. He gets it out to Liam Ryan. If you let it go now, I think, geez, now there's a real opportunity to score with our numbers around the ball. And you got Crippo in front of the play who's free. So it's on. And this is why being clean with your hands is so important, because for whatever reason, Liam doesn't hit his target. And if you look to the right of the screen, if you pause it just for a quick second, you'll see Motlop, who's the free player. Now, this turns into a Carlton ball. And now all the West Coast defenders have to press up to get Motlop. If you let it go, you'll see the ripple of all that turns over, Carlton getting the ball. All the West Coast players press up. And now you got McGovern free, which is fine if you can turn the ball over. But if you don't, that's when it looks all over the shop in front of the ball. So that one contest that we saw with Liam Ryan has turned into this play. And the worse you get, the more desperate you get and the more you collapse in on the play. And that's what West Coast did on the weekend. So this last clip... this last clip has 2v1 here, where you see Cripps collapses in. Now Liam Ryan gets free. A bit of a flamethrower there. You thought the first game I might have got a handball receive. Another story. Goes inside 50, and there's balance around this contest here is so important as well. Tim Kelly very clean, great knock-on and goal. So a lot of these scores come from the contest situation. If you don't get your balance right, you can get burnt. But if you don't win the contest and deliver it well, you'll get burnt even more.
The hard thing about all that is the more desperate you get, the harder you try. You think the harder you try is the more you got to get in.
Yep.
And that's the last thing you need.
Hold your balance.
Terrific. John, Adam, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Simo and Horse, our favourite pairing here on 360.